This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin Freakin.
Well, the breaking news just keeps going. Joe Biden announcing that he is stepping down from the 2024 presidential campaign. I think we're going to hear him speak here in just a second. I'm amazed that this didn't happen with like a press conference tonight in prime time. Well, let's go ahead and go over here. I was going to give you a meme, but let's go ahead and get over here. Let's get CBS News. This happened just like within the last 10, 15 minutes.
His age and his political ability. He believed until the 11th hour that he beat Trump once, he could beat Trump again. But he knew also that as a longtime political
he's been stubborn.
Has more of a political antenna than almost anyone I've ever covered. That he was losing support.
I guess it's bong time, isn't it?
He lost Democrats who have long supported him. And he wanted to go into the convention with strength. And if that became no longer possible, then he was facing a crossroads where the party might not be with him at that convention.
Okay, I thought he was speaking. This might just be...
And there hadn't been whispers yet of someone mounting a challenge against...
This might just be stock footage.
But there was
Bragg, good evening.
Biden didn't step away in the coming weeks.
Too fucking obvious. There's been a clip going around of him from like 3.5 years ago. It's night and day.
I can't underscore enough.
I played a clip from 2016. It's even more pronounced.
For President Biden, he is a proud man in the eyes of his closest friends and family members. This is not someone who ever would want to leave the presidency, something he has thought about as a rising young leader in the 70s and 80s through personal humiliation, political humiliation. You think about his run in 1988. He had a plagiarism scandal, then suffered an aneurysm, but he came back, always coming back, always returning, never quitting, staying in the Senate. Falls apart in 2008 politically when he runs for president.
This is insane.
By then Senator Barack Obama. 8 years president, with the first black man to ever serve in the White House. And then he runs for president, and again, everyone counts out Joe Biden. He loses in New Hampshire in the primary in 2020. He loses in Iowa. He keeps losing. No one counts.
NBC News has still not reported it yet. This is insane.
In the country, Jim Clyburn of South Carolina.
Oh no! Now they are.
And Biden's.
But it's not the headline yet.
2020. So that history of a comeback has been informing so much of the decision making and conversations in recent days. But at the end, at the final hour, it was just no competition for what Biden faced from his fellow Democrats in terms of pressure to leave. But Biden will be closely watched in the coming days.
Raina, good evening. Shelley, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I forgot what time of day it is. So used to being on at night.
You could face a chaotic Democrat
Bragg,
convention.
16 tones. Good afternoon. Welcome. Shelley, PP Girl. Drake, Media Winch, Lazy Eyes.
And I do want to back up some of the points that you were just discussing there.
You're just joining us. Biden is out.
Difficult of a decision this was for the president. If we could bring up the statement one more time for those.
I was getting ready to read the statement to you guys. I'll let CBS News do it.
Breaking news hour on a Sunday.
It's going to be Kamala Harris.
The president now announcing today that he will end his re-election bid. In a letter just released, he writes that it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And getting to the point of what Robert was talking about regarding how difficult and heartbreaking of a decision this was for President Biden, he goes on to say, while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to step down, stand down, that is, and to focus solely on fulfilling.
Porg, it is real. Also, we are still on
my term.
Willie James
Inman is traveling with the president. He is in Rehoboth with the president now, and he joins us now live with an update. Willie, what are people there saying on this historic?
Harris is the only logical
Hey there, Christine.
Way forward.
Well, this is just sending political shockwaves across the nation today. For the most part, things
he should have done it yesterday.
As they should here. And
it should have dominated the morning shows this morning instead of Trump.
If you talk to the folks here, they love President Biden. This is his home state, of course. This is a town that he visits quite often. But in his statement, he also talked about the successes of his administration. He thanked Vice President Kamala Harris, but as Bob pointed out, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out if President Biden does.
I am sorry that Joe Biden has fucked up your World of Warcraft game.
The Democratic nominee and go up against former President.
This is going to be the news all week, but like I think he should have done it before the morning shows.
So to speak, as those senators came out, you had
amazed it wasn't a press conference tonight.
The president needed to step aside. You had members of the House, more than 3 dozen Democratic lawmakers stepping out publicly and saying that the president.
I think he still would have won.
Campaign, and in fact, that is what he did today. Although, of course, he is behind closed doors. He's in isolation because he has COVID-19, growing frustrated.
Yes, once again, we are on.
So, quite a moment in American history for the president to step down in this way. In a statement, we haven't seen the president since he arrived here in Rehoboth Beach.
I made that like 3 years ago. I've gotten so much use out of it.
Mentioned in his statement, we will hear from him in the coming days.
So, Willie, no indication then, as you just mentioned, the president does plan on speaking to the nation later this week. As far as
later this week,
and what your sources and what you're reporting is indicating is that we will not hear from the president today, other than this letter,
because he is butthurt.
Indications are that we will perhaps not publicly see.
What was the line from Pulp Fiction?
We call here a lid.
That's pride.
See the president
fucking with you.
Isolating from COVID-19. Of course, things could always change. He is, in fact, the president of the United States, so we could perhaps see him give an address in some type of way. But for now, what we have from the president himself.
I'd love to hear from Biden, but apparently we're not going to get it today.
Another term, essentially, for the good of the country, but also for the good of the party, because you will see this.
The name I keep hearing is Mark Kelly, that Mark Kelly will be
top of the ticket if the Democrats were to do that.
Harris's running mate. I think
party not fully.
Andy Beshear from Kentucky is the logical running mate.
After decades in the political.
The other name is Roy Cooper from North Carolina, the governor of North Carolina.
This decision to not seek another term.
Former governor of North Carolina,
James
I believe.
Inman, thank you for that reporting. He is traveling with the president.
Or soon to be former governor of North Carolina.
With the president in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, where the president is now recovering from COVID. I want to bring in now Joel Payne, our political contributor.
A lot of leftists are celebrating it, I would assume.
Listening to this all unfold here this afternoon.
I mean, did you guys see the thumbnail I made for this?
Of how this will look in America's history.
And I didn't just make it, I've had it for weeks now.
This is major. I don't need to underscore that. This is a very significant development for a number of reasons, particularly looking at the calendar, looking at what this means for the Democratic Party. But I
didn't give you guys a meme of the day, so here it is.
Focus on Joe Biden here for a moment. This is an incredible personal sacrifice that he's making, and it bookends a personal sacrifice that he made in 2020 when he ran for the presidency.
The problem with Shapiro is that he is in his first term.
Concern about the future.
And that is a governorship you could hand over to the GOP.
In many ways, it's very appropriate.
Dougie feels even cleaner because Biden dropped out while in the shower.
Again, not on himself, but on the American people. That is the story that will be told, not just within the Democratic Party, but I think millions of Americans will see this as the selfless act that I think it's designed.
Yes, the former astronaut is the
clearly understands that
name is getting bantied around.
The president is untenable going forward. The leaders of his party have been
mitochondria. He has released a statement. His campaign released a statement.
This election,
it was shared out by Jill Biden on Twitter.
Selfless decision to end.
It is real.
And I think that this will put him in very air. Not just, again, in Democratic politics, but really just in the annals of presidential history.
I'm more excited. I said it the other day. I will be far more animated to vote for Kamala Harris than I will be for Joe Biden.
Public space for 5 decades. Who has?
We have a strong Democrat on the vice presidential
senators and U.S.
line. I think great, good for us.
Interwoven with personal crisis and tragedy, ran for president several times unsuccessfully, and at this late stage in his career became president. And now, after achieving,
here's the weird thing, PP girl, and
for so long.
From the polling, it really seems like the black vote was solidified behind Biden. Clearly that breaks apart along
If I could ask you to stand by, because
generational
we now
lines.
just made contact with Nancy Cortez, who is at the White House. And Nancy, obviously a historic day. As I mentioned here, as soon as we broke in with this breaking news, this is just another twist to what has already been a historic election cycle. And as we were speaking there,
insane election.
CBS political contributor, he honed in on how this is a personal sacrifice for President Biden. Do you agree?
I do agree. This is a position, the presidency, that President Biden has been seeking for nearly half a century. But before we get to that, Christine,
we're still 3 months out.
Major piece of news, which is just moments ago, President Biden answered a question that many of us have been asking, and that was whether he would endorse his vice president to take his place. And in a statement on social media, he now has. Here's what he said.
Good.
He says, "My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year."
The problem with Newsom is that he is from the same state.
This is a major puzzle piece.
Now, that's not usually an issue, but if you were in a close election, which this will be,
into several
you don't want something that a Trump campaign can bring up that's in the Constitution
turning not only
to challenge, and a Supreme Court go, well, yeah, we agree with that.
His campaign war chest, his campaign operation, basically giving her the most high-profile endorsement he can.
So that rules Newsom out.
On what will now be a breakneck 3.5 month
last 6. What's going on?
Presidency. This is just something that we really haven't seen in modern.
Well, he was being bullied hard before he got COVID. Yes, once again, we are on.
Inner circle, his team must have said to him, this is our best path forward.
Yes, and there have been a couple of different schools of thought within the party, Christine. There are some who say, you know, let's have some kind of mini election, some sort of mini primary that will end up strengthening whoever comes out of it. And then
that would be cool.
Thought that says, no, that's a process that's uncontrollable. You can't predict.
The primary has already happened. People have already voted, and people voted for Biden-Harris.
Those who are involved, and these are individuals, some of whom have.
You damn right, Drake.
National stage, and so this is clearly the.
Still waiting to hear on Jill's diagnosis. Because I also have a Jill Biden dies of COVID watch.
The Democratic nominee to the public, get them comfortable enough with this individual to hopefully enable them to have a strong showing in November. So there's no question that this is the safest path, and the fact that the president did this and endorsed Kamala Harris as the nominee so soon after he announced that he himself would not be seeking the nomination is an indication that
Manchin once again being the deciding vote.
Looking into this at all.
That's insane.
Behind the scenes, there was a plan for this kind of 1-2 punch for the president to announce he wouldn't seek the nomination and then in very short order to throw his support behind his vice president.
Nancy, so much information to take.
I feel sorry for Harris.
Please remind us.
Imagine what these last 3 weeks have been like for her.
Get to today.
Well, about a year ago, there were a lot of questions about whether
we are all
seek re-election.
What is and all that has came before us. She knows this. She's aware of this. She didn't just fall out of a coconut tree.
Wondered if he had the energy and the vigor to continue, and he argued at that time, yes, he did. He said he had had a very successful first term. He felt he could be successful in a second.
Thick and swollen.
Time to think about it longer.
What are you talking about when you say you're thick and swollen?
To run for re-election, but just recently, in the perhaps the last 2 months, I would say, we've really seen him slow down a step. You obviously saw it at the debate, but not just at the debate. He seemed to have.
Here's the thing, Thick.
Not just physically, but
you can look at the polls and you can make a case that Biden was their best shot at winning. You can also look at the polls, the fact that because you take the individual polls and it seemed that Biden was polling the best against Trump.
In the Senate,
though Harris has polled well against him in the last couple of weeks.
Not in every situation.
But the poll that I would point you to is that Biden is running
particularly after
sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8 points
come out
behind the Democratic Senate candidate in the swing states.
At first, the
Like-
Biden White House thought they could weather that storm. It was just a
Baldwin in Wisconsin
A lot of lawmakers
looks like she's got unlocked.
that they
Tester in Montana looks like he's got unlocked.
crossing him.
Sherrod Brown in Ohio looks like he's got it unlocked.
Tried to put on the pressure behind the scenes, but when that
They're all polling 5, 6, 7 points.
coming out,
I think Tester might be 3 points up.
you started hearing some equivocation even from Democratic leaders, reports that
So the argument was that Biden was actually going to drag the rest of the ticket down, that the Democrats are poised
calling on him to resign
to
publicly, but at least
outperform Biden.
behind the scenes that many of their members didn't think that he could win and that he would end up dragging down
She's the former senator from California.
lose the House and Senate.
She's the former California Attorney General,
Polling day
and
after
she's been the vice president for 4 years. That's who
until
Kamala Harris is.
to this White House that even if they believed that President Biden had a huge well of support
I would have liked him to choose somebody else, but
able to counter
once again, you're trying to shore up constituencies.
and arrows that he was experiencing from members of his own party, and that for the good of the party, he needed to step aside.
You know, Nancy, up until yesterday, the president said he was going to stay in this race. So I wonder what changed overnight.
Well, I'm not sure it necessarily did change over.
Gamify the election.
You know, you don't want to say you're leaving until you leave, but I think the fact that
Resonate.
announcement
Good
so
afternoon.
soon after ended up endorsing Vice President Harris to take his place, that shows that there has been some forethought here. That shows that they've been mulling it over, and it's frankly impossible to imagine that they weren't thinking this over. I mean, you know, this has been weeks now since the debate. What was that?
Light one up, tip one back.
June 20th.
Hillary Clinton?
Almost a month
What?
now.
No.
They have been enduring.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
To step aside, and you know, there's only so much.
No, I love Harris
It becomes
just because it will piss.
Democratic election.
Okay, this time next year, we're sitting here with President Kamala Harris.
The party, and it's simply
Fucking Hillary Clinton is gonna die just seething on that fact. I will love it.
But clearly, there was some planning going on behind the scenes.
Nancy Cortez at the White House. Nancy, please stand by. I want to get to Ed O'Keefe now. He is on the phone. He also covers the Biden White House. Ed,
I want Hillary Clinton to live to see the first woman president,
to many,
and it not be her.
at least one senior party official now who says they were given a heads up momentarily before
They've already been saying it, PB girl.
letter on social media, and that senior party official was told at the time that the president would be endorsing the vice president. It was an intention to do so. He has now done that, of course, again in the social space. And that now presents a series of challenges because there are no rules in the Democratic Party bylaws, in essence, for how this is supposed to proceed. And while you might conceivably see others try to challenge
Oh, they've been saying it for like weeks now already.
the Democratic National Committee that is stacked with operatives and lawmakers and other leaders of the party who are incredibly loyal to her, both from a having worked with her perspective, the belief that a woman like her should be president one day, or just ideologically aligned with her, or maybe even just hail from her home state of California, which has such incredible clout over the party, given
And look, as a media person, I think this is good news for Democrats if you want Democrats to win. The news cycle has not been
at this point.
about what Democrats are going to do. It's not been positive towards Democrats. It has been 100% negative for the last month.
President's wishes, or whether we will see a series of people try to conduct a 4-week snap primary leading up to August 19th, which I believe is the day, right? That Monday, August 19th.
So the delegates are already pledged. Biden releases his delegates. He's going to encourage them to vote for Harris. She should win on the first ballot. It should be a moot point.
Those who aren't fans of the president anymore believe he can't do this. That this kind of drama and chaos might actually be a good thing. That it might drag attention away from former President Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance. That it might draw enough intrigue from voters
intrigue. I think the news cycle is going to be positive towards Democrats.
It might reinvigorate the entire political system to say,
yep,
all right, we heard you. We saw our guy stumble. We're making changes to address those concerns, and now let's pick someone else and take them on.
Yep.
And to the question of, does she have the ability to defeat Trump? In various public polls in recent days, she's sitting right at about the same spot the president is, a few points behind Donald Trump in the single digits, not much more than that.
I think we have a much better chance now.
That actually put her in better
shape. As if I consider myself a Democrat.
Nationally or in certain battlegrounds. So it may just be at this point that a generic Democrat trails Trump by single digits, but the belief of the party is, with the issues they have to run on, restoring access to abortion rights, sustaining democratic, lowercase d, democratic values, ensuring that Ukraine and NATO are sustained into the future, the economic growth that's been seen in
wasn't expecting to be on yet. I'm wearing pajama pants.
And on those issues, they can win. And if they can find themselves a new
I got groceries coming
party and perhaps draw new attention and excitement, that might be enough to get past Trump.
Ed O'Keefe, great insight there. I want to just pause you for a moment, but please do stand by. I'd like to recap here for our audience. It is now 2:31 in the east, 11:30 on the west, and there is breaking news on this, what now is a very historic Sunday.
Boy, howdy.
President Biden today announcing that he will not seek re-election. Biden, the 46th president of the United States, made this announcement in a letter just released.
You guys are good for like the next half hour. We'll watch a car chase.
The greatest honor of my life to serve.
I got another one.
President.
Of course I do.
It has been my intention to seek re-election. I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. President Biden did offer his full.
Yeah, I don't believe I'm registered as a party.
Harris to be the Democrat.
I looked at my registration. It says nothing.
The president says that he will address the nation later this week. Mr. Biden, the first president now.
And I assume if it would have made me register, I would have looked up if it was open, closed primary, blah, blah, blah.
A second term. The president is at his home.
I don't think Michelle Obama has any
recovering from COVID, and he returned there late Wednesday.
Political aspirations.
Campaign swing in California. I also have a statement here now from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer that I would like to read to you.
Oh, shit.
He writes, Joe Biden has not only been a great president and a great legislative leader, but he is a truly amazing human being. His decision, of course, was not easy, but he once again put his country, his party, and our future first. Joe, today shows you are a true patriot and great American. Bringing in Nancy Cordes at the White House. Nancy, this statement from Senator.
We've got a whole new election now. I am, as a political commentator, I am reinvigorated.
Right, and Joe Biden, if nothing else, has very, very deep roots in the Senate, and this was a very personally painful experience for many of these senators who served alongside.
I bet they all agreed to kiss his ass and lionize him
for decades.
In order to get him to go out. We'll release a really good statement.
Democratic Party, not only because it was difficult for them to see someone who they cared for quite a lot and who they felt had really had a very historic.
C-SPAN live. Oh, we might get C-SPAN calls. Holy shit.
Checking off.
That's what we should be doing right now.
For the first term of his presidency, but also this desire that many of them had from Chuck Schumer on down to make sure that this was a decision that President Biden could come to on his own. They wanted to.
C-SPAN is not live on YouTube. Let me log into my C-SPAN account because, of course, I have one of those.
So they proceeded slowly, especially the leadership. These members of Congress who had gotten to their positions of power just like he did through years of hard work and being with him in the trenches in those negotiations, they proceeded pretty slowly to try to send that message to him behind the scenes without coming out and calling calling on him to step down.
Yeah, I don't know if they're live.
Him to do this with dignity. And so, yes, there are a lot of members of Congress
Also,
today
rest in power, Sheila Jackson Lee.
proud, that this is the way that things ended up. They believed in.
I was not aware that she was suffering from cancer. That might have been public. But I don't think I knew about it.
For years, this wasn't necessarily the outcome that anyone wished for or anticipated. But once it became clear to members of Congress, all the way up to the upper echelons, that
when I saw Joe Manchin earlier today,
Biden was going to struggle, not just over the next 4 months in this election, but potentially in the next 4 years.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Sent him a very strong message.
Warlord posting
so I think
Donald Trump's Truth Social response in the account.
Indicative of how a number of members of Congress.
Vice
Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president. Here, hold on. I'll save it. He just comes out swinging. I love it. Oh, fuck. Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. He only attained the position of president by lies, fake news, and not leaving his basement. All those around him, including his doctor and the media, knew that he wasn't capable of being president, and he wasn't. And now, look what he's done to our country. With millions of people coming across the border, totally unchecked and unvetted, many from prisons, mental institutions, and record numbers of terrorists, we will suffer greatly because of his presidency, but we will remedy the damage he has done very quickly. Make America great again. Also, my friend, the late great Hannibal Lecter. Venus, good afternoon. Welcome. If you are just joining us, Joe Biden has stepped down. He will no longer be seeking the presidency.
To watch, and we'll bring it to you first.
He posted that on Fault Social, indeed. DJ Dub, happy Joe Biden steps down day.
He actually interviewed the president just this past week.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol Live.
On hearing this,
It's a freaking Joe Biden step the fuck down finally day.
That I'm surprised. But it is an extraordinary.
Was that not creepy, Sky Comet? I don't know if you watched that with us. I don't know if you were here on Thursday night, but holy fuck.
Christine, he had all intention.
And also, I heard someone mention, but I have not verified this, that the name was misspelled.
We believed he was going to be able to defeat Donald Trump. So I think
the debates are going to be infinitely better. I assure you that when America sees a grown woman who is very intelligent,
political points that
who is very well spoken,
and with the idea
who can use complete sentences,
and her support,
just completely dissect Donald Trump during the next debate.
Wrote it.
It's over.
To him during an interview today, you started to get the idea that this may be coming.
A Democrat finally did the right thing.
Get louder and louder since that debate with former President Trump.
Thank you to everyone who watches the replay of the show.
Just on the gravity, I know we have a long road ahead of us. However, if the vice president is in fact endorsed and nominated as the new Democratic nominee at the Democratic National Convention, which
we're not sure, we won't be sure until the convention.
The gravity of the fact that she is a woman, and she is a black woman here in our nation's history.
So here's the thing: the delegates are pledged to Joe Biden. Joe Biden will release his delegates. Technically, they can do whatever they want. It's next month. It's like 3 weeks away.
For a black female, we'll see. People said that about Barack Obama. There were many who believed that at that point in time, America wouldn't be ready for an African-American president, and he was able to...
August 19th. We're less than a month away.
Would never be broken. I think one of the things that we've got to be cognizant of, though, even with this endorsement, there are forces in the Democratic Party that do not want her leading that ticket. And we're about to see whether there's going to be.
And just like the RNC will cover every night, we'll be right here on the Troll Patrol.
The idea that this is, in fact, probably the easiest route for Democrats to follow, but more specifically to give Joe Biden the ability to say, this is who I am putting my belief behind.
Also, I'll make an announcement 5 nights a week again starting next week.
That he is, in fact, endorsing his vice president. So I do wonder if that was meant for everyone in the Democratic Party.
We're going 5 nights a week.
Just fall in line.
1 week from tonight. I know I've said that once before, but for real this time.
Earlier that you said, is the nation ready to...
Yeah, it was supposed to be starting last week, technically.
Female black president. Is Kamala Harris, in your opinion, ready for the road ahead that's ahead of her?
Yeah, I think, and I'm bothered.
Oh, no, we're going back to 5 nights a week every week.
Americans in these positions get that question far more than we give to others. I think, 3.5 years in the White House has certainly...
Fuck, it was almost 7 hours every night.
On the Democrats.
And I've got to do it again in 3. I don't have to do it again. I don't have to do it, but I want to. 5 nights at Justin's.
Now, she stood stalwart next to Joe Biden. But
I played that on the stream one night on Twitch. I think there's a clip of it on TikTok
and willing to
of me getting the shit scared out of me.
What are some of those personal qualities that you know about her that you feel will help in the road?
I don't feel myself when I'm not doing the show every night.
Seen her do,
but also the break has been much needed.
Was given the idea of handling reproductive rights. A lot of people have suggested, that she stumbled and failed on the border issue, but I think that that's one of those issues that everyone who's been front and center of that, and I'm talking about presidents who were seated in office, have had an opportunity to, use the bully pulpit, but haven't been able to get their arms around the best way to handle that. But she, as many people have suggested,
President Harris is going to be awesome.
Productive rights.
I mean, not that the Harris president is going to be better on Gaza for sure. Will it be as good on labor rights? We don't know. I would hope it would continue the same
extraordinary
antitrust track that the current FTC is on.
Senate hearings. She's quick on her feet. I think she'll be a formidable opponent.
Ed Gordon, anchor at BET. Ed, we appreciate you taking...
A lot of people here in my very chat don't like her because she was a cop, a prosecutor.
Special report. I'd like to...
I think that's who we need. We've got a criminal standing on the other side.
I'd like to...
We've got a bunch of billionaire criminals
notion of
defrauding the country, stealing
nomination.
We need a cop. We need cop Kamala.
On the historic choice for the Democratic Party, she would be.
Yeah, obviously historic for a number of reasons. She would be the first woman president, and obviously she's already broken history, made history as...
ACAB means Kamala too. I'm Kamala.
Picking up on Ed's comment...
ACAB means Kamala too.
Fulsome conversation.
But we need a bastard right now. We need a bastard.
If we reach this point where Joe Biden decided to step aside from this race, what's...
Oh, DJ Dub, tell me be embarrassed.
That's what has somewhat delayed the decision by President Biden.
Listen, you are a part of all that is and all that came before you.
Plan B is maybe what delayed this decision somewhat.
You think you fell out of a coconut tree, DJ Dub?
Primary, they want to hear from the other, what they believe, stars of the Democratic Party, whether it's a Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania or Governor Whitmer in Michigan, many others, Raphael Warnock in Georgia, Mark Kelly in Arizona, et cetera, right? But then you also have...
There's a lot to dislike about her. She's very cringe.
There is no other choice than...
But I would rather have cringe...
for many reasons. One, she had...
Like, that's when we were watching all the clips of her the other day.
For President...
And if you guys would like, we can do that again. I can go dig up my... It's like...
couple of issues that
Vice President Harris's greatest hits
this time around. The issue of abortion, which she is probably the fourth.
I felt it was refreshing to have a
issues of
slightly cringe,
like climate change,
but intelligent politician.
She went on
clinically. Welcome in. Congratulations.
in recent months that
you've just won yourself a new Democratic nominee
with those populations of voters. Not to mention just the obvious fact, let's just say the quiet part out loud, black women are the strongest, most reliable part of the Democratic voting coalition. And
I think her foreign policy will be drastically better than Biden's, and I think her labor policy is probably going to be worse. That's if I had to guess, and it's a trade out.
Maybe the polling says something mixed about.
Yes, clinically, ACAB means Kamala too.
History,
but we need a bastard right now. We need a bastard to go up against Trump.
A lot of challenges to keep that coalition together, which is highly dependent on engaged black voters.
A dab
like that were to happen. So to me, there was no other choice but for Joe Biden to engage, endorse.
We need a woman to do it.
I would not be surprised if you see many other Democrats do that. I think just in the time we've been talking, Congressional Progressive Caucus Chair Pramila Jayapal.
I think she has leaked several things.
Folks do that
since October that lead me to believe that she will be infinitely better
the news of the Harris
on Gaza and probably other foreign affairs as well.
Somebody who recent reporting has suggested wanted an open process if Biden were to step aside, as opposed to
that's just my guess.
Moving the nomination to Kamala Harris.
She won't be as strong on labor as Biden,
and I believe,
but she will be better on foreign policy than Biden.
To figure out,
I think it's a wash.
Whether or not Kamala Harris's endorsement from Joe Biden will transfer to the rest of the party.
All right.
And I'm hoping that we still get the same push against antitrust.
Early here in the East, even earlier in the West, and we are going to continue to cover President Biden's decision to step down for re-election for President of the United States. I'm going to hand over our coverage now to CBS Evening News anchor Norah O'Donnell.
Oh, they brought in Norah. Shit.
Christine Johnson, thank you. We are coming on the air at this hour as President Joe Biden has decided.
Yeah, they're probably on the main channel, so they were getting Norah ready.
For the White House on Sunday, just a short time ago, releasing a statement to the American people saying over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress.
They'll pull out the big guns, which I'm sure everybody's gone live now, right?
But that he has decided to instead endorse his vice president, Kamala Harris, in this effort to try and defeat Donald Trump. Want to bring in Margaret Brennan, who is the host of...
I figured it would be a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock press conference.
And Margaret, I understand you...
He'd come out, read a statement, walk the fuck away. Yes, he's endorsed Harris.
Very small group of advisors. They kept this very, very quiet. And from the calls I've made so far, there is an appeal to say, please don't make this about the process. Focus on the legacy of Joe Biden, that he made this decision in what he views the best interest of the country. That is, he finally heard the message.
That's what I figured. We're gonna hear a lot of statements praising Joe Biden in the next few days.
More loudly, as they did earlier today. On Face the Nation, Joe Manchin, Dean Phillips, others joining the chorus of lawmakers saying that the president has lost the faith of the Congress and lawmakers, and that he needed to.
I think the Democrats still have the incumbent advantage.
Stepping aside to do now with this endorsement of Kamala Harris, which he did all via social media. We haven't heard from the president directly. I understand we will.
I think he's stubborn. He's going to finish out his term.
This is a message to quickly respond to the cacophony of voices telling him that he may lose this election versus Donald Trump.
And it's probably best for him to finish out his term.
News that in a hypothetical head-to-head, Kamala Harris trailed
Winston
by 3 points.
Good afternoon. Welcome in.
By 5 points. That is, of course,
Joe Biden has announced that he will not be seeking re-election.
Focus this on
has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris.
Coming out and saying that Joe Biden's endorsement of Kamala Harris without reopening a primary process somehow looks rigged, somehow denies the vote that primary voters.
I think it's for like the good of the party that he remains.
So you are about to see an onslaught.
She goes to the convention and wins.
To undermine faith.
Hopefully in the first ballot, all his delegates vote for her, or most of them.
In time, it is worth noting that Joe Biden has come to a very painful decision for a 50-year legacy, in Washington at such a consequential time.
Is this the lowest point of this man's life?
Faced a world in crisis, and by the way, about to go face to face with a world leader, and trying to.
He has wanted to be president that's what his entire career has been devoted to.
Interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. Want to bring in Robert Costa. And Robert, obviously a very difficult decision for President Biden to make. He has been in elected office for some 52 years, has a tight-knit group of supporters. They were pushing very hard to try and stay in this race, just as early as yesterday, saying he's going to be back out on the campaign trail next week. He's going to be meeting with the Israeli prime minister that's here in town. What changed?
This is a seismic political moment, a historic moment.
Yeah, the gravity of this situation probably has not set in on everybody yet.
That incumbent president has decided to step away from the nomination. That same year, 1968, the Democrats were having their convention in Chicago, just like they will be in Chicago this year. For Democrats, this was about a pressure campaign on a president who was insisting that he wanted to stay in the race until the 11th hour last night. Based on my conversations with his confidants, his family was urging him to stay. First Lady Jill Biden, Sister Valerie Biden, son Hunter Biden. They believed, as he believed, that he could beat former President Donald Trump. But as Margaret said, he has been in politics since he was elected to the Senate in 1972. He has a political antenna. He saw the pressure rising. This was not something he wanted to do, but he was talking through with
Brandon makes an excellent point.
And so many others like Anita Dunn, and saying, if I do get...
Because that was something I brought up the other day. Once again, being in Vice President Harris's shoes.
Make sure that endorsement was quick. It came to...
What is it like to be... Because, like, it's one thing to run for president. It's another thing to have a campaign foisted upon you when you weren't expecting it.
For contemplation.
Because I would assume up until at least a month ago, she was pretty sure he was running for re-election.
For President Biden. He loves being in the political arena. Now stepping out.
The gravity, and to be a black woman.
That ends in January 20.
Holy shit, to have both of those things on top of the gravity of just having a full presidential campaign foisted upon you 3 months before the election against a man who has pledged to be a tyrant.
A governor like Roy Cooper. Could it be Secretary Pete Buttigieg? California Governor Gavin Newsom, unlikely to be that pick.
Holy fuck.
It's unusual in American history due to the Constitution.
I would not want to be, I would crumble under that pressure. Holy fuck.
Thank you. At this hour, we are covering this breaking news as President Biden has decided to drop out of the 2024 race. He has endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris.
We're going to find out what she's made of.
It is worth noting that there have
I think she's got it.
Of elected Democrats who have favored an open nominating process. The Democratic convention is in Chicago in the middle of August, so there is time still for Kamala Harris to try and wrap this up, but the nominating process begins again shortly, so there is much still up in the air. Let's go now to our chief White House correspondent.
I think, Sky Comment, I think that's why the counterbalance is like a folksy white man, like Roy Cooper or
last night,
Andy Bashir.
Here at the White House, and senior Democratic officials outside the White House were still being told that President Biden was in it to win it and that he wasn't going anywhere despite all the Democratic calls for him to step down. And then that bombshell came.
It is time.
That actually he was.
We need far more female leaders.
Indicates that if he was mulling this over,
women leaders,
his family, maybe a very small circle of aides, but that was being kept away from most in the Democratic orbit writ large, because it is obviously a very difficult decision, one that he resisted for quite some time, but clearly he and those right around him decided that it was just too difficult to try to push back against this growing wave of Democratic.
And he doesn't have it in him.
Who were urging him to step aside.
He can't push back because he doesn't have the cognitive ability to do it.
Does the vice president face?
Well, she's got 3.5 months to mount a presidential bid, which would be difficult for anyone. Yes.
So here's the thing. So the misogyny will indeed be grotesque, but like I think Sam Cedar pointed this out on the Majority Report.
But, you know, she has
They only got 3 months.
3.5 months at the top of this ticket.
They're going to come out and they're going to be absolutely grotesque about it, and it's probably going to turn a lot of people off. They're not going to have time to fine-tune their dog whistles.
To sort of spring in there on day one.
They're going to be just full-on horrible about it.
The same size of a team,
and it might work against them.
The president does, and she's got to try to get all around.
And we're dealing with a much different electorate than 2020. A lot of people have died of COVID.
That she has what it takes to do.
We have 4 more years of young people
At his press conference, I asked
that are voting,
whether he thought
that are overwhelmingly
was ready on day one to be president of the
overwhelmingly more leftist in their thought.
That's why he chose her. He pointed to her ability to hit the road.
Yeah, all the people that are animated by misogyny are already voting for Trump anyway.
He talked about
Sparkles Lavendar. Good afternoon.
Definitely brought to bear in her
Joe Biden
Senate, on the Senate
is out.
Committee, but now she has to take those attributes.
As of about an hour ago,
to take those attributes.
Biden releasing a statement about an hour ago.
Not just the message of the campaign, but also the message at the convention coming up in just a few weeks. Everything has to change to reorient against.
I like her scarf there.
While she has served here in the White House with President Biden for the past 4 years, is a very different person with very different strengths, and that entire campaign machine has to reorient around her.
CBS News is doing a lot of reporting, and I want to make sure we get to all of the new information that is just coming in. Robert Costa, I know you have something new you want to share with us.
Yes, so sources close to several of the people who might be considered possible challengers to Vice President Harris for the nomination, people close to California Governor Gavin Newsom, people close to Gretchen Whitmer, the governor.
Too high?
All saying they're preparing to stand down. They do not believe that Democrats will challenge Vice President Kamala Harris at the convention in Chicago. Already in this immediate aftermath of President Biden's momentous decision, you see behind-the-scenes Democratic consolidation. The real race will be for vice presidential nomination on the Democratic side, but it is intriguing to me as a reporter, but there's no one at this moment preparing behind the scenes to challenge Vice President Harris.
That's right. Governor Gretchen Whitmer just saying, with Biden out, my job in this election will remain the same, doing everything I can.
I think Cooper or Bashir are the two picks.
She wrote that on social media, so she will
fine with either.
In the way of Kamala Harris seeking this.
In North Carolina is the other, like Biden was campaigning in North Carolina.
Seeing a head-to-head challenge.
That was a state they thought they could flip from 2020.
The person who stands beside her August 19th at that Democratic convention to seek the nomination in that vice president role. That's where the focus is. Anyone
won by Obama both times.
Committing political suicide to try to go head-to-head.
By Trump both times, I think. I think he won North Carolina in 2016.
Just within minutes of announcing he was not going to seek re-election, that he was endorsing her. So that's what we're looking at now.
In a moment, let's talk about who those potential vice presidential picks will be. But first, I do want to touch base with Willie James Inman. He is in Delaware, and I know Willie.
Bartle says she's too high for this. I don't think I'm high enough.
Hey there, Nora. Good to be with you. Well, the Biden family is reacting to this seismic news today. Jill Biden,
fuzzy face,
the president's statement, and she put
Oh, Sky Comet, do you need the? We've already got the statement
with the president as he's recovering from COVID.
If you guys are just joining us, I'll go ahead. I'll give you both official statements. Here is Joe Biden's. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we've made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all of this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Joseph Robinette Biden. Here is former President Trump's statement on the current president leaving the race. Crooked Joe Biden. Unity. Crooked Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. He only attained the position of president by lies, fake news, and not leaving his basement. All those around him, including his doctor and the media, knew that he wasn't capable of being president, and he wasn't. And now, look what he's done to our country, with millions of people coming across our border, totally unchecked and unvetted, many from prisons, mental institutions, and record numbers of terrorists. We will suffer greatly. It's weird. You know who should be in prison? But we will remedy the damage he has done very quickly. Make America great again. Make America great once again. Magoa. If any of you weren't here the other night, we had a right-winger come in here during the convention. And he's in here a lot, right? He watches quite frequently. Maybe one day we'll crack him. Maybe he's just trolling us. But he came in, he's like, Magoa. And like, I just started cracking up over Magoa because I just thought he was stupid and misspelled it. But then I remembered that's actually the theme of the convention. Make America great once again. Magoa. We had a lot of fun last week. Hopefully the Democratic convention
in San Francisco
will be a lot of fun this time.
She's been careful in recent days, but she has also been thinking ahead to the possibility as these calls.
Well, we're drilling more now than when Trump was in office.
She expects
that's the wild thing.
President Obama, President Biden in particular, to be out on the campaign trail for her. And there's also a belief right now inside Vice President Harris's inner circle that they could put former President Trump on the ropes, that he has so far in the past few days attacked her on personal characteristics, attacked her laugh at his latest campaign rally.
Yeah, Trump is focused this whole past week on Harris.
Those kind of attacks, which are personal, will not stick with the kind of swing voters that are ultimately perhaps going to decide this election in the key battleground states.
Robert Costa, thank you. Also with us, checking in with many of his sources, Ed O'Keefe. And Ed, what can you tell us at this hour?
Nora, good to be with you. There is a meeting underway of the Democratic National Committee senior leadership amid the unexpected news, at least unexpected to many of them. There was a meeting going on this
unexpected
to sort of put the finishing touches.
I'm just a little fucking Twitch streamer, and I had a goddamn thumbnail ready.
Enough heads up, and in this meeting,
I made this weeks ago.
But we know that the DNC Chairman Jamie Harrison convened his top brass.
It has not happened this late, media went.
Said he was quite emotional about it. They have put out a statement.
LBJ decided to not run for re-election, but I want to say it was like before the end of the
next few weeks.
The previous year.
Democrats are prepared and united in our resolve to win in November.
Or January of the year of.
Nominee, our values.
So like there was still time to have the primary and everything.
He says later we have and will continue to make this case to the American people. The American people hear from the Democratic Party.
I like the idea of ruining Trump's merch.
Process. In other words, they don't quite yet know what to do. While the president has endorsed the vice president, to Bob's point earlier, that many may be standing down, given that announcement, there's a few reasons for that. One, you only got 4 weeks left. And that's a gargantuan task to try to take on.
I don't think so, Scott. I don't think there's anything that can benefit Trump. His support is there. It's solid. He ain't gaining. He ain't losing.
Official title. Technically, a handful of money would go to her. And so she could use that conceivably in these next 4 weeks should she be challenged. Keep an eye instead on the race for running mate. There are a handful of governors who I've learned this afternoon have been contacted. The one I know for certain, at least in a reportable way, is the New Jersey governor, Phil Murphy, who is among those fielding and entertaining them, in part reminding people that he has a foreign policy background, given he was once ambassador to Germany.
Not Phil Murphy.
Include the governors of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, potentially Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, and Governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker is the kind of guy that if he really wanted to, could cut himself a $200 million check and mount a challenge himself. But the early word from his staff is they didn't know either. We do now know also, Nora, real quick, that he did inform at least a handful of people before this letter went out over social media. There was one senior party official who said he got a call from someone close to the president, made clear he was going to do this and intended to nominate or to endorse the vice president. So there was some early heads up given to a small handful of senior party leadership responsible for the order of things, raising money, operations, and whatnot. We know over at the White House, however, that many staffers learned about this the way the rest of the world did over social media. Nora.
And let me
wow.
This, Ed, and I think we could all sort of discuss this. It's my understanding, though, that the rules at the convention, President Biden cannot simply transfer the nomination to his running mate. He drops out of the race. There are some almost 4,000 Democratic delegates now that were selected, that were bound to President Biden, that they are now essentially
my groceries
agents.
Not outside my door yet.
Biden-Harris is the name of the campaign.
Was not expecting this to happen.
Tens and millions of dollars that
fair enough clinically.
The campaign, but
you'd think they'd at least get a mass text like 5 minutes before it goes out or something.
People have run for delegate across the country, and if they ran as Biden delegates, they are now what is called pledged delegates ahead of the convention in Chicago. It's important to note that if you are a pledged delegate, you are elected in our system.
And Chicago was wild last time Democrats had their convention there.
Yes. Legally speaking, is there an opening for someone to come in on a first ballot vote that is somewhat fluid and say, I want the pledged delegates to walk away from their pledge? Yes, that's very possible. And someone could mount a candidacy saying, I want people on the first ballot to discard their pledge. But this is a political process where these delegates are under enormous pressure to follow through in the faith of the Biden campaign, politically speaking. And if President Biden is now directing his delegates, essentially, to go with Vice President Harris, they could move in a different direction. But there's no one now making a move against Vice President Harris, and it would take a real insider who could pull and yank pledged delegates away from President Biden's decision. And remember, these people who run for delegates are the most loyal Democrats to Biden in the country. So to your point, it is possible someone could challenge her, but not likely.
And you have called this political suicide, Margaret, based on what people have said to you.
I would think so.
Challenge what could be the first.
Because there's like a pecking order in the Democratic Party.
To become president of the United States. What would that mean for the disunity that already exists in the Democratic Party? Is there a collective thought that they must now...
I think that's what's going to, it has to be an open convention. But I think the majority of Joe Biden's delegates, which wins the nomination, are going to vote for Harris, and I'm behind that.
And in the next 3 weeks, be able to clean it up so that at the convention, they can shift the conversation to unity and to messaging. They just saw a very well-orchestrated Republican National Convention and a message of Republican unity there after, during a primary where the Republicans were not united. So
now here's the thing: is Gavin Newsom has absolutely had his eye on that White House.
The intention to try.
Unfortunately for him,
to try to make this about next generation.
If you get a Harris campaign
about understanding and that there's
with a popular governor like a Roy Cooper or a Andy Beshear
on this ticket. Bob made a great point.
You're looking at 8 years of Harris. You're looking at possible 8 years of her VP.
And that is about,
depending on how things go,
to the strength there, not wanting to in any way undercut the vice president, but they know they have a problem with the working class, the white working class male vote. There is going to be a real focus on trying to bring that in. When we
have you guys heard Andy Beshear talk?
The Kentucky governor, Andy Beshear, or the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. Those are states where there is this emphasis on can they speak to that
I am pushing Andy Beshear.
Presidential picks. This is speculative at this point. It is going to be Kamala Harris.
Well, it's more than speculative. It's already happening. We're getting reporting at CBS News. Someone close to Vice President Harris telling CBS they would like to see Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer picked as the vice presidential nominee. This is one of her longtime allies to double down as a female ticket against former President Donald Trump, who has been found liable of rape in civil court, who has had different allegations thrown at him in many decades. So there's already a feverish activity behind the scenes to get people on the ticket. This is tough.
Wait, they want to lose this election, don't they? Fuck me.
Listen to me, how just within minutes, people are setting up their camps to try to get on the ticket. But we have to come back to the point. While as political reporters, I'm highly interested in who is the running mate for Vice President Harris. The most important thing now is the President of the United States. Vice President for the presidency. And the Vice President, who is a former Attorney General of California and Senator, is now likely going to be the Democratic nominee. This is a lot like 1968 when President Johnson pushed Hubert Humphrey towards the nomination. Presidents are using their political capital in these moments.
And what will quickly follow in a sign of Kamala Harris's strength is if the Obamas come forward and say that she is the best person to move the Democratic Party forward. What will the Clintons do next? That would be
who gives a shit?
Send a signal to the Democratic Party that they want her to be the nominee.
Obama's allies tell CBS News there's no doubt he is going to be supportive. Think about this. Vice President Harris got to know then Senate candidate Obama when he was a state senator running for the U.S. Senator in 2004. He would come to California for fundraisers and got to know this rising star.
Yes, Humphrey lost.
Kamala Harris. They became so close that when he ran for the presidency as a Californian, she flew to Iowa to campaign for then candidate Obama. They are close personal friends. It would be shocking if he didn't go out there again and again for her.
But to your point, Nora, there is concern among some Democrats I've spoken to that this cannot look like a coronation. This cannot look like what happened at the Republican convention, where unity was really sublimating to Donald Trump. There is a part of the party that wants to see this look open, transparent, and have
the Senator Bernie Sanders wing will be watching this all. He has not issued a statement yet, at least to CBS News. Senator Bernie Sanders and that progressive wing have not always had a perfect relationship politically with Vice President Harris. Watch what Senator Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York do. If
they've been extremely.
It's all hers politically.
They've been extremely supportive of Biden. So
Ashley Etienne, she's the former communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris and is now a CBS News
Whitmer.
Political.
That's dumb.
So good to have you on this historic day. What can you tell us about what is happening behind the scenes, where the vice president is at this hour?
Absolutely, Nora. It is an incredible day in American history.
I think you want to balance the ticket out. You want a well-rounded ticket.
Maybe 2 years ago, and the question.
You want to represent a lot of constituencies.
And now she's at the top of the ticket. So much has changed in such a short period of time. It's incredible, but there's a level of excitement within the party, and definitely
education was the issue. Andy Beshear was the best on in Kentucky. That's what swept him into office.
Now going forward,
with the teachers union
that sort of stops the bleeding among these key key stakeholders at the party's focused on. One, she's already
So that's one of the reasons why I feel
fundraisers. So
the labor aspect would be represented by Andy Bashir.
For leadership on the Hill to get on conference calls today, conference calls tomorrow. Does she go to the Hill? Does the president pass the torch officially, publicly, in a way that shows that he's fully endorsing her? These are all the questions now that they're trying to figure out behind the scenes. Does he do it in a formal way at a podium, passes the torch to her? Does she deliver big remarks? The other outstanding question is this: is he going to continue? Is he going to put forth a lot of effort to secure those pledged delegates that you guys were?
I'm glad everyone's in agreement. Like, just don't even mention the Clintons.
With those folks and say, listen, we've got a plan. We've decided as a party, we need to be unified. Our unity is our strength. We need to get behind Kamala Harris and move forward and focus our attention on Donald Trump. So what's happening behind the scenes is
Lord.
What are the next steps? And
yes, he is out. It is official.
Stakeholder groups.
Ashley Etienne, thank you. And just moments after I said we're waiting to hear from the Clintons and the Obamas.
Who are you to question the integrity of Dean Phillips, DJ Dub?
Endorse Vice President Harris and will do whatever we can to support her. The Clintons going on to say in this joint statement, we've lived through many ups and downs, but nothing has made us more worried for our country than the threat posed by a second Trump term. He has promised to be a dictator on day one, say the Clintons, and the recent ruling by his servile Supreme Court will only embolden him to further shred the Constitution. Now is the time to support Kamala Harris and fight with everything we've got to elect her. And then they end with this, the Clintons saying, America's future depends on it. Pretty strong statement from the Clintons throwing their support behind Kamala Harris, noting what many people agree is a historic presidential election, perhaps the most important in generations, and what a wild couple of weeks it has been. Beginning with that.
As far as I know, Kennedy has not dropped out and will continue, I believe. He's trying to play spoiler.
Donald Trump.
John Andrew, good afternoon.
Survives and is barely hit with that bullet. A unified Republican convention.
Can he outlive this cabbage? Can we get a cabbage? We need a cabbage.
Younger Senator J.D. Vance, who is from Ohio, spent his summers in Kentucky.
Joe Biden outlived this cabbage.
To try and court the white working class vote. However, there is already an effort underway, of course.
Let's all go to Chicago. It is impossible getting that place, I bet.
Billy Elegy wasn't always complimentary, and so there certainly will be a discussion about that.
They wouldn't want rabble rousers like us raising a fuss about old Palestine or something.
Biden so hard is that they believe he was not vigorous enough in his pointing out and debating the record and the rhetoric being put forward by Donald Trump.
That's true, but also at this moment, there's a lot of anger.
If I went to the DNC, I wouldn't know which thing to protest. I've got many grievances with those people.
Might on the surface be celebrating.
What protest would I join? There's numerous groups protesting, I would assume.
Closest to President Biden, that he was forced to make this decision under pressure from allies of former President Obama, from allies of.
Help me become a bigger streamer, and I'll live stream from Press Row.
Coming days for
at the DNC and RNC when we get to 2028.
In the next few minutes and hours of every major Democrat likely coming out and offering support for Vice President.
I'll go to all that shit. I'll go to the conventions.
For the nomination, which we've.
I'll go to the debates.
At this hour. At the same time, watch what President Biden does in the coming days. He will be forceful, I'm told, by people at the White House to be out there on the campaign trail for her, and they don't blame her inside of the Biden inner circle for what has happened. But this is a Democratic.
Streaming it in the streets. I might do that because, as I said, I'd like to join. I wouldn't.
In the perfect way for an 80.
I would be conflicted. The leftist in me would want to join the numerous protests going on outside of the convention.
And how people.
But, you know, the shit lib in me, who is a institutionalist, wants to go in and enjoy the convention.
The Speaker Emeritus in a statement saying President Joe Biden is a patriotic American who has put always put our country first.
Come on,
in
man.
her words, his legacy of vision,
Venus gross.
make him one of the most consequential.
Remember, I was a suit and tie news reporter once upon a time.
Not endorsed Kamala Harris in this statement, but notably praising the legacy of Joe Biden and applauding his decision to put our country first. We are now joined by the co-chair of the Biden-Harris campaign, Senator Chris Coons. Senator, thank you for joining us.
Senator Coons.
Great to be on with you. This is a critical moment in American history, and I hope today that we can focus on Joe Biden's incredible legacy of service.
I'm kind of tired of these history-making moments.
He has been serving us in this.
Biden has indeed endorsed Harris.
And today he's made a very difficult decision in the best interest of our nation to continue serving as president, to continue rolling up his sleeves and tackling the challenges that still lie ahead of us in the next 6 months, but to step aside in terms of the nomination of my party for president in order to make certain that Donald Trump is not returned to the White House. I admire, I respect, I love Joe Biden. I have worked my heart out for him on this.
Why don't you marry him, Coons?
Well, this was a very hard decision. I deeply respect how it is a continuation of his lifetime.
Are you talking about me or Coons, Venus?
Joe Biden is the toughest fighter I've ever met. Every time he's been knocked down, he's always.
Oh, sorry. I keep back at the microphone.
Challenge of
being a real pro today. Not high enough for this shit.
The interest of the nation was a significant challenge. I still believe he could have beaten Donald Trump, but I also know that what he's done today.
Well, I had to ask. It could have been Coons, but it also went with the conversation we were having.
Now is happening with Vice President Harris. When will we hear next from her?
I don't know her schedule today or when she'll come on TV. But what matters is that President Biden has made an historic, a brave and important decision that we should reflect on his legacy and his leadership, which is the legacy of the Biden-Harris administration. As you know, I'm a member of the Judiciary Committee. We've confirmed more than 200 federal judges under the Biden-Harris administration. Vice President Harris, who served with me in the Senate on the Judiciary Committee, was a critical part of getting every one of those judges confirmed. She's been a key part of the successes at home and abroad.
He should pack the court before he leaves.
And I think she is best positioned
He won't.
to carry it forward. Joe Biden, our president, spoke to that just moments ago.
He should take bold action before he fucking leaves.
And reflect on the fact that Joe Biden is someone who in the Senate, as vice president, as president, has earned a legacy.
Apparently getting some kind of proposal for term limits.
Effective presidents in our entire nation's
and an ethics code.
There's lots more to do.
It's enforceable.
Just this coming week, he will continue to work to negotiate a ceasefire.
Oh, he won't. I mean, that was wishful thinking on my part, clinically.
For the resolution of the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians in Gaza. He is someone who spent 50 years being prepared to lead our nation in this moment in Ukraine and with our NATO allies, in the Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East, and he's got 6 more months of service to complete.
Oh, God, you're boring me, Coons.
And as the most respected, most senior leader of our party.
Senator,
I look forward to campaigning hard along.
I don't know if he's going to make it 6 months.
And to working with him in the Senate.
Senator, at this hour, we know that President Biden has endorsed his vice president to be the
I don't know that he makes it 6 months because we are on.
From the Clintons in a joint statement saying they would like Kamala Harris to be the Democratic nominee. Do you expect there to be...
I don't even remember all the people I made that graphic for.
The vice president.
I think it was Joe Manchin. I think I got a Trump one. I got a Jill Biden one.
Joe Biden as president. I do recognize the urgency of the moment. As we head towards our convention in Chicago in August, I think the most important thing we can do is come together. And Vice President Harris has an incredible legacy of success and accomplishment as a senator and vice president. I do not expect a serious challenge to her nomination, but let's let that work itself out in the coming weeks and focus today on what a big contribution to our nation our president has made. He's been my mentor. He's been my friend. I am proud of him as a Delawarean.
Has she tested positive yet?
And I hope the folks who have been raising lots of questions and issues in the last few weeks will do what they said they would do and recognize his leadership, his legacy, and come together to support the nominee of the Democratic Party so that we come out of Chicago united. Donald Trump is a unique threat to the future of our nation. And his choice of a running mate is
She went down and told immigrants in Guatemala not to come here.
behind Ukraine in their fight for freedom, to continue to advocate.
Did you really think I couldn't name one thing?
Of Americans shows everything we need to know. We should be focusing on the fall campaign and the threat that Donald Trump presents to the real legacy of accomplishment, fighting for the middle class, reducing prescription drug prices, combating climate change, helping veterans. Our president.
Let's do the
things done. They've gotten them done through bipartisan.
Vice President's greatest hits here. I'm gonna find that thread.
Legislation that's made a difference in everything from gun safety to combating climate change to investing in manufacturing to rebuilding this country. So for everyone who's watching, anxious, concerned about the future of our country, know that Joe Biden is a
no, they're still edging.
Nation, and know that we are positioned.
Oh, accomplishment. I thought she just said what has she done?
It's Bob Costa. Good to see you, sir. If you could
Good
for
to
a
see you,
moment,
Bob.
good to see you. Respectfully put aside your role as
Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Joe Biden, the President of the United States. You more than anyone perhaps I've ever covered.
All right, since we're now assuming that Harris will be the Democratic nominee, I think this is a good time to once again watch Vice President Harris's greatest hits. You asked me what she has done as Vice President, a thread of all of her greatest moments. I think it's endearing. And after Trump, after Biden, I find this refreshing. There's a lot of cringe in what I'm getting ready to show you. I find it refreshing. At least she makes sense. She speaks in full sentences.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Here's the thing. That makes sense. It's not windmill cancer nuking hurricanes.
Radical statement.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and came before you. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? Everything is in context of all in which you live and came before you. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. Of all in which you live, what can be unburdened by what has been. 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 I can.
I'll salute that president. That's way better. Way better. Hold on. I'm not on the thread, am I?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Where's the whole thread?
You exist.
Hold on. She said, fuck it, a thread. Finally. Here she is singing off tune.
Wheels on the bus go round and round. Wheels on the bus go round and round.
Not the tune for that song. Here she is. Dancing along to protesters who are mocking her in song. I'm totally down with her. As I said, it's cringe, but this is way better than fucking... There she's being told by her aide they are mocking her in song. And she takes it well. She takes it well. I like that.
Good news. I just love good news.
Well, ma'am, you got it today.
Good news. I just love good news.
I guess, I don't know. I'd shit myself if somebody told me I had to run for president. Holy, just for 3 months. I don't know what that dance is, but she's in rhythm. She got a lot more rhythm than I do. Once again, I think these clips are endearing. That is way better than the Trump dance. Oh, clinically thinks I'm doing propaganda. In a way, I am trying to sell you on her. As I said, I will enthusiastically vote for her. I'm not going to hold anything against anybody who they vote for president. I'm done doing that. Your vote down the ticket, getting involved in local politics, way more important than who you vote for president. Don't lose friends over it. But I would implore you to vote for Kamala Harris.
And as always, Wakanda forever.
Yeah.
Paid for by Kamala Harris. And as always, Wakanda forever. Paid for by Kamala Harris.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Okay, see you guys later. It's the Bennetts.
Hello, Madam Vice President. Hello, Senator Bennett. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
All right. Okay, see you guys later.
See, she does voices.
Bennetts.
Hello, Madam Vice President. Hello, Senator Bennett. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
All right. Okay, see you guys.
I totally want her to be of all the options, this is the best possible timeline of what could have happened. Seriously. She'll be fun. She'll be a breath of fresh air.
I like it.
Yes. This is the song of the summer, okay?
I don't think I ever heard this song before.
54 years standing right here, we fought for our rights. Unbelievable. Tell us something that we can be optimistic about this Pride season.
We are all in this together.
Okay.
We are fighting for the ideals of our country. We believe in its promise of equality and freedom. We are not going to be deterred. We are not going to tire.
Nope.
We're not going to throw up our hands. We're going to roll up our sleeves.
To me,
just because she locked people up doesn't mean she doesn't believe in freedom clinically.
We become stronger and stronger and stronger.
She's at a Pride event.
Rock here today. Thank you. How were the tips this weekend?
Very good.
Very good. Wow.
People are very good. Yes. Yes.
Wouldn't you rather have a president that goes to Pride event?
And let me just tell you, I love Gen Z. I don't know if some, I love Gen Z. So, okay, for the older adults, this is going to be a humbling thing I'm about to share with you. If someone is 18 years old today, they were born in 2005. Oh, yeah, check that out.
And make them feel old.
I see our college students.
She loves Gen Z. See, she loves Gen Z. She's speaking to Gen Z. She's telling the old people about how cool Gen Z is. She's making them feel old. Wouldn't you prefer that in a president?
And be unburdened by what has been, you know?
What can be,
unburdened by what has been? What can be?
The Republicans have made this video.
By what has been? What can be? Unburdened by what has been?
I ran people off with Harris.
Unburdened by what has been. What we can see, what we believe can be, unburdened by what has been. What 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 can be, unburdened by what has been. Who we can be,
So,
unburdened by.
it's anecdotal, but just from my stream, she seemingly turns leftists off.
Unburdened by where we have been and unburdened by where we are right now. What can be, unburdened by what has been. What can be, unburdened by what has been. What can be, unburdened by what has been. What could be, unburdened by what had been.
Yes, she says it a lot, but at least it makes sense. At least it's not the late, great Hannibal Lecter.
That we really all need a tremendous hug in the world right now.
Yeah.
But in our country, we need you to be Mamala of the country.
She doesn't seem too excited about the idea of being Mamala.
I've been thinking that we really all need a tremendous hug in the world right now.
Yeah.
But in our country, we need you to be Mamala of the country.
Does she have kids? Is she even a mom? I have no idea. I've never heard a mention of her having children. Did Drew Barrymore look at a childless woman and be like, we need you to be our Mamala? Like, woman, first of all, I'm old enough to be a grandmother. Say, looking good for a woman old enough to be a grandmother, for sure. Second, Drew Barrymore's old enough to be a grandmother at this point now, isn't she? And, like, asked her to be a mom?
I've been thinking that we really all need a tremendous hug in the world right now.
Yeah.
But in our country, we need you to be Mamala of the country.
Seriously, like, she doesn't seem to like it. Look at the look on her face. Like, don't call me Mamala.
The fresh turkey?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's being delivered
And so
tomorrow.
just little, 1 minute out. I have one minute.
Yeah.
Kosher salt, fresh ground pepper.
Oh no, what recipe were we getting?
Okay.
It's being delivered
And so
tomorrow.
just little, 1 minute out. I have one minute.
Yeah.
Kosher salt, fresh ground pepper.
Oh, fucking shit.
A little thyme. And then you can mix it even a little bit. Okay, so do the salt and pepper all over it, just lather that baby up, right? With the, on the outside.
The butter.
You could also chop up, but not with the thyme, just the salt and pepper.
With butter.
Mix that up also with some thyme. You could even do a little rosemary if you want. Under the skin with some butter before you're gonna cook it. So that butter will just melt in there. And then get a nice big bottle of cheap white wine to baste with butter. Yes, hi.
Okay.
Yes. Is getting a fresh turkey?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, she knows how to cook a turkey then.
She puts my face in her hand. So it's Barb and Mike, my father-in-law's Mike. She puts my face in her hand. She looks at me and she says, "Oh, look at you. You're prettier than you're on television. Mike, look at her." No.
She has a good Jewish accent.
Swear to you. She puts my face in her hand.
She is definitely not a bad looking woman, so like, is she prettier in real life?
I really do. I love Venn diagrams. It's just something about those three circles and the analysis about where there is the intersection, right? Yeah, I see people that you agree with me, right? So, okay, so I asked my team, I brought props. I love diagrams.
I really do. I love Venn diagrams. It's just something about those three circles and the analysis about where there is the intersection, right? Yeah, I see people that you agree with me, right? So, okay, so I asked my team, I brought props.
I mean, I guess if someone asked me to be their daddy, I mean, I guess, it depends on the context, right? Holy fuck.
You live in sexual anarchy.
And we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children. The governor and we were all...
Okay, that one was short of profound. She was trying to get there. Maybe she was wanting to talk about how a day is so much longer to a child than it is to, like, what is that, relativity or what? No, that's not relativity. That's some shit Einstein came up with. But how, like, days don't seem as long to us because we've lived far more of them than a child, who is living their short amount of days. What? I did not explain that well.
Do not come. Do not come. Do not come. Do not come.
Ed Jomala over here.
No, Taraji. Now, you know I wouldn't do that, especially not to a fellow bison. The real, ain't you? You know. So what's on your mind? Oh, Madam VP Harris, I'm worried about the election. Women's reproductive rights are on the line. Our Supreme Court is on the line. Our basic freedoms are being tested, Madam VP.
Yes.
I know you've been traveling across the country. What are you hearing?
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets. And let me tell you, you're right, Taraji. There is so much at stake in this moment. The majority of us believe in freedom and equality. But these extremists, as they say, they're not like us.
They not.
There's a full-on attack on our fundamental freedoms. The freedom to vote.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the video that the Young Turks was making fun of. That they apparently didn't know that was the name of the Kendrick Lamar song. And they were trying to say, like, it was beneath her to talk like that because she was the vice president. Like, what are you doing? It's so cringe. You're trying to be out here, appeal to the youth vote. Ugh. She's just reverencing a song lyric.
The freedom to love who you love, the freedom to be safe from gun violence, the freedom for a woman to make decisions about her own body, not having her government tell her what to do.
Get it, girl.
Big Sister General.
Yeah, I had no clue why that was funny. I had to ask Sparkles, and she told me that her big sister is a general in the military. Which I was like, oh God, that'll make my stream dislike her even more.
Big Sister General.
It was like a whole family of bootleggers. Big Sister General, that's your Kamala Harris greatest hits. Let's go check in with one of the main news outlets. Let's go to... I'd love to see what Fox News is fucking saying right now. Let's go to NBC. Oh, hold on. They're not live. Let's see what the BBC is saying. They've always got good coverage.
Ability to run to be president for 4 more years, and he recognized that had consumed the campaign. And even though the Democrats had a great record to run on, they were unable to get that message across because the focus so much was on his age and his mental acuity. And So he made a very brave and selfless decision, a patriotic decision to put party and to put the American people before his own interest. And so I think this opens up an opportunity for the Democratic Party to showcase a very deep and talented young bench that we have. And so while it may feel a bit chaotic, you couldn't have written a script like this, even in Hollywood.
This is wild.
A bit
I'm checking my groceries.
of a scramble at this point. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the Democratic Party to answer where the people are. And they have been telling us for years that they did not want to see the matchup between Trump Biden, and now the Democratic Party is the party that's answering to the people's desires.
Yeah.
Rodney Davis, what's the reaction amongst fellow Republicans to Joe Biden's decision? Because we've been hearing from correspondents that at the convention, nobody was saying they wanted Joe Biden to drop out because they thought Trump could beat him.
Well, actually, I think polling would show that President Trump is likely to beat Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or any other Democrat, especially after the convention that showed a unified Republican Party. But the world has witnessed President Biden's cognitive decline well before the debate that Stephanie mentioned, which was a disaster for President Biden and his.
Well, he's a political hack. He's a Republican.
There's no one that believes that this was Joe Biden's decision, his decision alone. He was pushed out by the power brokers.
He absolutely was.
And a backroom deal of the Democratic Party. His own
And for once, I agree with him.
He has served over 50 years.
Usually I don't like the Democrats' backroom deals.
They're the ones
They're politicking.
that decided to push him aside to try to win.
That would the abortion thing would probably be the angle they're taking if they're wanting Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer.
Does Joe Biden, with his cognitive decline, actually know?
They're wanting like a real woman-centric campaign.
If he's not capable of being a candidate,
I would.
The United States,
that could backfire.
Isn't this a constitutional crisis and a national security threat to have unelected bureaucrats?
Whitmer was popular. She would make a good president.
Imagine if a Republican were doing
like
this.
we're talking about the realities of the political landscape.
And the entire judicial system would come after.
As an Appalachian, we do not claim J.D. Vance.
America deserves answers.
I am from where he apparently
Mr. Davis
spent summers with cousins or some shit.
To Stephanie Murphy, is it possible that
that's as close as he ever got from being from Appalachia?
Doesn't even know that
spending summers with cousins there.
We don't know the details yet, do we? We don't know the details of how he came to this decision, and we're not expecting to hear from him until later in the week.
I'm sure you'll hear from him later in the week, but that's
what a fucking week! What a fucking month!
He's had the ability.
Postmodern Prometheus. Good afternoon.
He just wasn't the best messenger for what we needed, and what he was trying to convince people of was the next 4 years, not the last 4. And so I think that's
I've had a bit of a wild week. On top of covering the RNC,
one would expect it.
On top of covering the assassination attempt.
The letter he signed it. He stepped aside because he made
just a week and a change, just a week and some change ago.
Who sits in power, does that lightly, and we owe him a
barely Prometheus.
What we need moving forward in this election.
DJ Dub said I was looking awfully frazzled by the end of it. And I believe I was.
Donald Trump, who polls at 47% with 100% name recognition against somebody who
thought some pairs
is polling just about within the margin of error and a much lower name recognition.
Are you guys going to find the
potential
Democratic convention any more bearable?
Who have been begging us for somebody other than Trump Biden.
Stephanie Murphy and Rodney Davis, stay with us if you would here on BBC News for a moment. I just want to pause for a second and look at a statement from President Obama's office. He says, Joe Biden's been one of America's most consequential presidents, as well as a dear friend and partner to me. Today, we've also been reminded again that he's a patriot of the highest order. It's a long statement, so do bear with me. 16 years ago, when I began my search for a vice president, I knew Joe's remarkable career in public about his career in public service. But what I came to admire even more was his character, his deep empathy and hard-earned resilience, his fundamental decency and belief that everyone counts. Since taking office, President Biden's displayed that character again and again. He helped end the pandemic, create millions of jobs, lowered the cost of prescription drugs, passed the first major piece of gun safety legislation in 30 years, made
the 19th of August,
climate change in history, and fought to ensure the rights of working people to organise for fair wages and benefits. Internationally, he restored America's standing in the world. It goes on further down to say that President Biden pointed us away from 4 years of chaos, falsehood and division that had characterised Donald Trump's administration. Through his policies and example, Joe has reminded us of who we are at our best, a country committed to old-fashioned values like trust and honesty, kindness and hard work. Further down in this statement, he talks about this being an outstanding track record that gave President Biden every right to run for re-election and start the job he finished. But he says, I know Joe has never backed down from a fight. For him to look at the political landscape and decide he should...
It's been obvious this had to come.
...is surely one of the toughest in his life. But he wouldn't make this decision.
Many Democrats coming out against
it was right for America. He goes on to say, we'll be navigating uncharted waters in the days ahead. But I have extraordinary confidence our leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges. I expect every single one of us are prepared to carry a message of hope and progress forward into November and beyond. He finishes by saying, Michelle and I just want to express our love and gratitude to Joe and Jill for leading us so ably during these perilous times. We're joined by Rodney Davis, who is a former Republican.
So she's going to say Rodney Dangerfield. I was like, really?
A former Democrat congressman.
That'd be wild.
Murphy. Rodney Davis, let me put this to you. The Democrats are talking about needing to create a process by which they find a replacement. How problematic is that for the Republicans?
I don't think it's very problematic.
Well, I don't know how you create a process when a process already exists. The Democratic Party has already established rules of ballot access. And here in the United States, unlike many other countries with parliamentary systems, our elections are run at the state level. Ballot access is determined state by state and by local jurisdictions. This is this is going to be a much bigger deal when we start drilling down into what it's actually going to take to replace Joe Biden's name on the ballot. I'm sure they'll work through that, but it's not going to be without some twists and turns. And make no mistake, this was not the passing of a torch. This was the torch being ripped out of the hands of President Biden at the same time when you had people like Barack Obama.
Have his cold, dead hands.
His friend, so-called friend and mentor as a former president, at the same time, he was shoving a knife in his back because he was a major part of this.
Remember, Joe Biden's not even a baby boomer. Deal. He's the generation before them.
How do you imagine it's going to play out then? We already know that Joe Biden and others have endorsed Kamala
Harris is Gen X.
She's going to need a running mate as well. How and when?
So much closer to our age.
We'll know who those people are.
Well, most of our ages. I know what the demographics are of the stream.
He knows very well, which is that the parties have the ability to change the rules by a vote of their delegates, much like his party changed the rules of who could be a part of the platform party before they announced a platform that ostracized a significant part of the Republican Party so that they could have a different reproductive health platform in the recent convention. So none of that is guided by the Constitution. It is guided by the delegates in their vote. And so that's one thing, is that the delegates are allowed to vote and determine how each party makes determinations regarding its platform and its candidate. And then secondly, our legal scholars have basically weighed in, and whoever comes out of the Democratic primary will have ballot access. That's the way it's supposed to work. And so surely I understand that the Republicans want to run against Joe Biden, so they're going to throw up whatever barriers they need to try to ensure that not a younger and more a younger and a candidate who's meeting the needs of the American people will emerge. But what I will say about Joe Biden's decision is that it exemplifies what the Democrats do compared to the Republicans. You know, Donald Trump is about recrimination, about himself, about the past, and getting revenge. The Democratic Party is about looking to the future and putting the country over self. And that's what we're looking for in our Democratic nominees.
Rodney Davis, how concerned will the Trump camp be now that they may have to face Kamala Harris? She's something new, but
I think they'll be overconfident
from what we've had.
Number one, we don't know if the Democrats are going to select Kamala Harris. There is a process in place.
They will.
And that process will be followed. If we assume that Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, is going to be the candidate, many Republicans are giddy. Now, if I was on the Trump campaign, I'd be a little disappointed that
everybody here
change mid-direction when
politically back from the smoke. Let's do this. Once again, it happened in LA probably 2 days ago. Man on a dirt bike led police on a high-speed chase.
It gets more difficult for that pilot to have outside reference to be able to stabilize the helicopter, and it gets really hard to fly when you get up into the dark where you don't have a ground reference with the helicopter unless you're working.
I told you get a chase if you were well behaved.
LAPD flies with.
Couldn't ask for a better chat.
All right, a little bit of a rocky road here. I can now see the GoPro as well. Thank you for pointing that out. Interesting because 2 days ago, it was on Wednesday that Christine and I were on the air with a reckless and wildly dangerous pursuit.
Which one?
Somebody come to find out the suspect inside going extremely fast was live streaming on Instagram.
Oh yeah, that one
during that chase. So now we
totally watched that one as well
here with the GoPro, and now it looks like he's standing up there, meeting some of those other.
I know you need aftercare.
Tim, it's
oh shit, what's going on?
This background to Christine's point to be able to.
Are we already standoff?
Looks like he's stopping to have a conversation.
Oh shit!
Yeah, he's with a side-by-side here. It's one of the more expensive off-road vehicles they have up there. Like I said, this is a normal thing to where they can get up there and ride around in their carts. And right now, he may be asking the information of this driver next to him. Hey, where's this road go? Where can I go down this road? Does it pop back out at a certain spot or not? So, and he knows he's not being chased on the ground because there's no way. Now the side-by-side is now turning its lights off as well. So. It's going to be all about that observer keeping that light on it with the infrared. And luckily, those night suns that are on the helicopters are what they call slave. In other words, the tactical flight officer will use the camera to put it on the rider, and then that light will then follow the camera, so he doesn't have to do it by, to use it as we did back in the day, have to go with two different controllers. And you see now he's lighting him up. They've both turned off their lights. So you see how dark that is. So that's where I went back into the difficulty of what the pilot is dealing with here.
This is amazing.
And I thought for a second he was getting off the motorcycle and getting into the side-by-side, but looks like they're just meeting up here in dark.
Each chase we've watched
hopefully,
has been
LAPD
its own
is
unique
waiting down at the
snowflake.
bottom for him in different areas. You see now there's a house right there in the lower left-hand corner.
Bike.
So he's not that far up the hill, but there is a very remote area that he is in right now. So
it's amazing your perspective and insight there, Tim. I was looking at the streets. I guess you call them the mountain streets, Boy Scout Upper Mountain Way. This is a satellite overlay. We've got a kind of a picture of what was going on there. But you're right, there are those homes down below. This was the one on this was a reckless driving situation. Is it worth it for police to follow this bike over the hills, over the mountains?
Especially because the threat to public safety is really nil at this point.
Serious, sir. You came for we're watching a dirt bike pursuit.
These fire roads that are up there. It like you said, it's a reckless driving, evading type thing, and very good.
Joe Biden has stepped down.
Not endangering anybody except himself.
We've concluded our coverage of that for now.
Keep an eye on him with that helicopter.
Do a little aftercare
for 3 hours and keep an eye on him, and then bring out a second helicopter to relieve them if they want to put that much time into this. But on a situation like this, you never know what you're dealing with. I mean, what has this suspect done? Why is he doing what he's doing, other than trying to just?
It is not the one with the neon lights they're after. There's a dirt bike.
Invest a whole lot of time in it, but at this point now, why let him get away with it? You're not holding too many resources to go after this, but now coming down the hill, I've got a feeling that motorcycle is behind.
It is real.
Side coming down, but I thought I saw a little bit of a light. There he is.
Feels like a fever dream.
So he's following him down. He's going to bring him down. And if the Sky Fox shooter widens out a little bit, maybe we can see where he is in reference to those houses coming down. But it's a pretty rough road coming down through here.
It's happened either yesterday or day before yesterday.
We'll see where it pops out
Valley.
at. But obviously getting some local intel from the 4x4 wheeler there for the motorcycle and trying to stick with him, but it looks like he may be giving the ghost. But
we keep having twists and turns in the storyline.
You have to weigh the odds, or weigh the expense of
the swerve, bro.
For a misdemeanor traffic violation. Hopefully they got a license plate on him before he
Bernie with the RKO out of nowhere.
Down that way, but
I doubt it.
At this point, it almost becomes a.
It would be nice if there was at least some sort of
it takes to catch him and
progressive contingency that made concessions, but they're just all going to fall in line.
Just a misdemeanor traffic violation.
But it's like you said, we don't know what we're dealing with. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe this is a person who's been wanted for something else. I don't know. It is very interesting.
Maybe it's just a punk-ass kid.
On Fox 11 News at 10 o'clock.
We've covered a lot of chases together, Christine, and I've not seen the dirt bike before.
I can't believe he's running for re-election in the Senate like Bernie, man. I love you. I love the fact that you're in the Senate.
Is he now circling back just to do another lap? Perhaps. Oh, there. He's just trying to catch up with the. You call that a 2x2? Is that what you call that?
Side by side.
Side by side.
But I can't believe he's running another 6-year term in the Senate.
Different brands.
Come on, Bernie. Go ahead. You can spend time with your grandchildren.
Because if I give the wrong one out, I'll get
great-grandchildren, probably. God damn. You are old.
These are sometimes 2 seats and sometimes 4 seats, and they're pretty expensive off-road vehicles. So, but they're up there all the time at this time of night, cruising around, just
sitting side by side.
Warm evening that they have to be able to go up these.
Thank you, John.
Get shut down for any red flag. They may come up later in the.
We probably got about another 10 minutes of this left, and I'm gonna head out and put up my groceries and make dinner. But we're gonna be back tonight at our normal troll time at 8 p.m. Eastern. Biden is in his classic Corvette going on the run.
Cooperating, we're talking with this guy on the
balls.
Watch on this one as we look at that satellite overlay. But that's it for now on that pursuit.
Oh, that's all? But it's not all. It's not all. I don't know, the helicopter's still following them. They've stopped somewhere in like the middle of the desert. They're just like smoking cigarettes or something. Not as eventful as some of the other chases we watched. Last week, dude had stole a car with his girlfriend and their baby in the car, and he was live streaming as he was like being chased by the cops. Fair enough, clinically. Cops aren't going out. That's what they're like fucking smoking something. Chilling out. Or is he playing the flute? But you can almost guarantee it's going to be an eventful show tonight. When the Troll Patrol goes live at 8 p.m. Eastern. I don't even know what I'm going to make for dinner tonight. Maybe a hamburger again? I made hamburger the other night, but like usually I make like a thick patty and then I'll put some blue cheese on top of it and put it under the broiler with like some other cheese, like a Swiss or a provolone on top of the blue cheese. That's usually my go-to kind of burger, and then I'm like a lot of toppings like barbecue sauce and crispy onions, lettuce, and tomato. But I did a couple of smash burgers. I got the patties real thin, got the meat all nice and crispy and shit. Melted some sharp cheddar in between the two patties. Put some burger sauce on the burger. Mr. Mystery, you goddamn right I'm getting fat. I'm putting on a gut because of all the way I eat. I am not in my 20s anymore. And I am not active enough to burn the calories off that I eat. I am cuddly. They've turned all their lights off. We are watching. They are. This is a police chase. The dude was on a dirt bike. He's out in the middle of the desert. They're like, you're seeing the helicopter. So not a black screen warlord. Promised everyone a police chase if they were good, and everyone were little angels. Exemplary chat. So what do you think about that, warlord? Goddamn, my shopper is slow as fuck. They've checked out. Yeah, I'll probably be off stream by the time they get here. I mean, what's gonna happen to you if you're speeding in the desert? You're gonna wreck, you're gonna like hit the sand. Maybe a scorpion bite you or something. They've all got their phones out. Do you have service out there? Still got about 5 minutes of it to go, so we'll see what they do. I mean, it doesn't seem like it was even warranted for the cops to be chasing them, to be honest with you. The coffee truck the other day was amazing. The woman that was almost naked that stopped and put the sun thing up in the... We've had so many good chases. We might just turn the stream into a police chase stream. Yeah, they've just given up. We're just cruising over LA now. At least they didn't beat the fuck out of the dirt bike rider. That's a positive. See if we have any new updates. Everyone seems to be getting in line behind Harris. Chris Coons has endorsed Harris. Obama is on the Harris train. Liz Cheney says Biden deserves our gratitude. Former Vice President Al Gore has hailed Biden's climate efforts. Yeah, all the Democratic bigwigs are coming out and praising. Hold on, we got a statement from Harris going on right now.
He's releasing a statement saying that he believes it is in the best interest of his party and his country.
Oh, they must have just gone off.
And in his words, to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. We do expect to hear from President Biden at some point later this week in an address to the nation.
He is not going to talk to us today. He is still at home. He has COVID. We are still on
Biden dies of COVID watch.
Looking for injustice. Speaking of Eagle, let's get us an animal video. Remember, we're going to be back tonight. Same troll time. This might be an animal video we've watched before. Yeah, let's do this one. Because it's fun. You know what? Later tonight, we're going to do Mo Mountain Mutts. We haven't checked in on Mo Mountain Mutts in a while. This is before and after photos of dogs being told they're good boys or girls. Oh, little Winston. Toby's adorable. Look at Opal. Oh, Maisie. I just got like 2 balls of cat over here on my couch. 2 balls of cat right there. There's another ball of cat over on the chair next to the window. I got like a cuck chair in my window over here. You don't believe he has COVID? Birdie. I was excited to do a normal Troll Patrol show tonight. If I get like, this isn't gonna be a normal Troll Patrol, is it? This shit is a fluid situation. We'll see what's going on. I've got to put up my. There is no normal now. Holy shit! Clinically, this has been such a wild election. We've still got 3 months to go. What is the October surprise gonna be? October is when Trump is gonna drop out. Who knows what is going to go on in this election? It has already been a wild ride. I'm more enthusiastic for Harris, especially if I get a vice presidential pick I can get behind. I wouldn't mind Mark Kelly. Gretchen Whitmer doesn't animate me that much. I can't believe that's the first name they threw out. You're very poetic today, Mr. Mystery. I fucking love it. Thank you. Thank you for your support. We're going to be back at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific tonight. Let me find you somebody. We need to find somebody to raid into because we're good stewards of the Twitch community. I mean, okay. There's only one place we can go, right? Go get high. My boy Jason Society. I'm sure he's gonna be continuing the coverage of Biden's dropout. I'll see you guys tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Go ahead. Light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun. Wait a minute. I can't do that during the middle of the day. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. However, that doesn't limit your options very much at all. I'm Justin Freakin. I'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern.